The economy is showing signs of recovery of late, adding 850,000 new jobs in June. But many groups are still hurting, and perhaps none more than women of color. The unemployment rate for black women rose to 8.5% in June, meaning that 1 in 12 black women are unemployed compared to 1 in 19 white men. That is the backdrop for this year's Black Women's Equal Pay Day, which represents how black women had to work an extra 214 days to earn what white, non-Hispanic men made in 2020. On average, they were paid only 63 cents for every dollar paid to white men. Joining me now is Minda Harts. She's the author of the book, The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. She has a new piece here at knowyourvalue.com on pay equity. Also with us, Errin Haines. She is editor-at-large for The 19th, the nonprofit newsroom focused on women, politics, and policy. And Lauren Wesley Wilson, founder and CEO of ColorComm Incorporated, a business community for women of color in the communications industry. I appreciate having you all on board with us. We're continuing this conversation, which actually started off on Morning Joe. Errin Haines, if we could back up a little bit and look at just how bad these numbers are. And then when it comes to women of color who are mothers, the numbers get worse.
No, you're absolutely right. And we've been reporting on this at the 19th because we know that in this pandemic, it has been women who were disproportionately impacted by and responding to the coronavirus crisis, especially from an economic standpoint. And women of color, black women, were particularly hard hit because it is women of color who are overrepresented as essential workers, as caregivers, as low-wage workers. These were the women who were less likely to be able to work from home, as you and I have, and had to balance really earning a living with protecting themselves and their families from a deadly virus. And so these black women, frankly, this is what they voted for. They voted for change around this issue in 2020, and they are, demanding a new normal, frankly, on the other side of this pandemic in terms of how they are treated in the workplace. And equal pay is only part of that conversation, but really an issue that's at the top of the list for them.
Lauren, what are some immediate solutions that should be considered?
I think first and foremost, ColorComm, we focus on advancing women of color in business. We've launched a platform called ColorComm Search, which connects leading companies with multicultural talent and really breaks that middleman. So you have direct access, because so often we don't have direct access to jobs and hiring. We have to we have to apply online. Our information just kind of sits there in this black, dark hole. And we really wanted to provide a resource and access to women of color so that they have the option to talk directly to the person hiring for that role and, to really advance their career in the future.
So, Minda Harts, somebody is placed through ColorComm at a company that wants to increase their diversity and retain diverse talent. What does that company need to do? What does that new employee need to do to make that relationship work?
Great question, Mika, and I'm really excited about the ColorComm platform because I think that this is an opportunity for companies and women of color to partner together to make sure that we have equitable solutions. So number one is making sure that the company is providing psychological safety for those women of color when they arrive. So making sure that it's an equitable environment from the top down, from the bottom up, and so people feel as though they belong there. It's one thing just to get in the door, but if you don't feel a sense of belonging, one report showed that 54% of Black people felt like they belonged for the first time during remote work. And so that's a problem if people had to work from home in order to feel like they belong. And so we really need to think about what belonging means when we return back to the office. And secondly, as a woman of color, as a Black woman, making sure that we're articulating our value. My grandmother used to always say, tell people what you need, right? And so if you want to move forward or you need to, you want to promote or advance, let people know what you want and how they can help you. And so I really do believe that we have a unique opportunity right now, and I'm excited to see the future of work and how it benefits Black women in the workplace.
And Lauren, I see you nodding. Do you prepare the women that you place to sort of try and figure out how to have a company meet them where they are. And so there is that communication, that gap that really, I think, sometimes leads to people dying on the vine and not making it out of company or staying and being retained and growing.
And I think Minda makes a great point. It's about knowing that you're going to be prepared for success when you get in the door, because I think so many companies can check the box and say, look, we have a person of color and junior level, mid-level, and senior level, but then there's this rotational cycle where you're leaving every year and a half to 2 years. You don't necessarily feel included where you are. So yes, we prepare our members for that. And one of the things that I always say is, you're truly responsible for your own career. So your employer, your manager is not going to tap you on the shoulder and say, guess what? It's time to be promoted. I noticed that you're doing such great work. You're really responsible for taking and learning and getting training outside of your company so you can bring those resources and tools back into your company. Your company may not invest in you in that way. Go invest in yourself. You're really responsible for kind of learning the political game, so to speak, learning how to manage up, learning to be a better communicator with your boss, with your boss's boss. So those are the type of skills and resources that we teach with our members at ColorComm.
And Errin Haines, I think it makes sense right now to ask you about the 19th, because what you have created with your colleagues is really contributing to this conversation.
You know what? Thank you, Mika, so much for saying that, as we are actually rounding our 1-year anniversary here soon and are preparing to celebrate that with a huge summit that is discussing certainly issues of equity. I do want to highlight a point that Minda was making. Not only is this conversation about the pay gap, but this is about Black women who are paid less to come to workplaces where we have to navigate racism as a part of the job description. And that's certainly something that I fortunately don't have to do at the 19th, because we are trying to build the workplace culture that many of us, frankly, wish that we had earlier in our careers. But it is why you're seeing these reports coming out of the pandemic about Black women who are reluctant to return to an office environment after they were able to avoid the kinds of daily microaggressions that they had to endure, at least in person, from their colleagues for the better part of a year. They were able to avoid that in the pandemic. And so Black women are really saying that there has to be a new normal around how they are treated at work. You're seeing that there's a metaphor in the Olympics, folks like Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka saying, I will be valued and I will prioritize myself in the workplace. And Black women are seeing that, and it is resonating.
Minda Harts, Errin Haines, and Lauren Wesley Wilson, thank you all very much for joining me right here at knowyourvalue.com. I hope to see you again soon.